Greetings, I am Pillar Nexus, the Ancient Gladiator, today with Pillar Loves Tabletop Games. Today with Euphoria, game I have to play as the final game for a board game league. Didn't win it, but I had fun, so as part of my auction winnings, I got myself a copy. The goal of the game is place all 10 of your authority stars. To that end, you will use your workers and your recruits to get resources and commodities and artifacts and contribute to building markets, getting into territories, building up allegiance to max level for your recruits, and if necessary, being the villain of the dystopia by contributing to the making it worse. All right. Start of the game, we'll have a maximum number of spaces per territory equal to the number of players. You'll use these tokens to cover them up. We'll cover up the exclusive spaces at the end of the tunnels. Set up the minor meeples, set up the allegiance tokens. Every player will start with 3 knowledge, 1 morale, and a random ethical dilemma card, and 2 workers, and a choice of 4 recruits. They will ditch 2 of them, and 1 of them will be hidden at the start of the game. Hidden recruits can be activated through the allegiance track or through tunnels. And everybody will take their 2 workers and roll them. Highest roll becomes the first player. If there's a tie for high roll, it goes to the older player. Or you can just roll a 3rd die and not use it as part of your workers. Regardless, on your turn, you can either place workers, retrieve workers, or resolve your ethical dilemma. Place a worker, you take your die, and place it on a space. There are these multi-use spaces where you can get resource or commodities. So you place it there, you check the total knowledge of all workers in that space, and do what it shows for that total. At 4, get an energy and increase Euphorian allegiance. As allegiance, oops, that was supposed to be there. As allegiance goes up, production spaces will make more. The tunnel provides both sides of the bonus. Hidden recruits become activated, and then recruits of that type are worth points. But these only help if you're actually of that allegiance, which means having the recruit. So these are the multi-use spaces. Any number of players can be there. Most other spaces are going to be temporary. So what happens with a temporary space is someone else can bump you off of it, at which point you will take your dice and roll them again. You will then add your available workers. So red still has a 6 available, and now has a 5, and they're at +3 knowledge. So that's a total of 14. They're safe. However, if this plus this, your roll plus your knowledge is 16 or higher, you will lose the highest available die. It'll go off to the side until you can recruit more. Thankfully, we got to avoid that situation. Other spaces, we'll cover the tunnel spaces. So whenever the tunnel is activated, You pay the cost, you move the meeple one space, and you get either the resource or an artifact card. Again, if you're of that allegiance, you'll get both bonuses. Meeple moves far enough, the recruits of that type will automatically flip up. And then if it reaches the end, it opens up that space. This space is exclusive to people who have active recruits of that type. So Euphorians, Wastelanders, Subterrans. Other spaces other than tunneling. We have the worker activation tank. This is how you get more workers. Pay 3 energy and lose 2 knowledge to shock a worker into activation. There we go. Or spend 3 water and gain 2 morale to gently rouse them to. And then players can be bumped off of those spaces as well. The Icarite territory has its own weird stuff going for it. Spending 3 resources to gain a star on the territory. Spending a bliss and 1 other commodity to get influence or allegiance and 2 artifacts. A bliss and any other commodity for allegiance and any 2 resources. And then that leaves the artifact markets for whichever one you go to. You can discard 3 artifact cards. Alternatively, as instead of the cost of 3 artifacts of any kind, 2 of a kind can count as 3. So let's see if I can find. There we go. Artifacts from times forgotten. So discarding those 2 for this gets a star on either the territory or, if it's already built, one of these constructed markets. You want to try to have stars on those markets to avoid the penalties. These are the spaces you cannot be bumped off of. If you go here, you have to spend that resource and you stay there until this is built. You have the option when retrieving workers to leave some behind. That would be the one instance you want to do so. In a 4-player game, filling 3 spaces completes it. Anyone who contributed a worker to the construction gets to add a star to it, get a step closer to victory. Anyone who doesn't have a star on it will suffer the penalty. Every time you roll a 1, lose a resource or commodity. The This is the disassemble a teddy bear shop. All the all the little markets are just kind of dark yet darkly humorous, silly. But now that opens up this space where people can spend these, so a commodity and a bear artifact. Let's spend that to gain influence or allegiance and an authority onto the territory. Yeah, as opposed to having to spend the 3 artifacts. All right, what else? There's But at some point, you'll hit a point where all your workers are out there and you'll need to retrieve them. You can do it for free by reducing morale. But the thing is, morale is your ability to hold artifact cards. And you're going to need to get to at least, two if you're really lucky, or three if you want to be sure. So you can give up one morale to retrieve your workers, or you can spend food or bliss and gain two morale to retrieve your workers. You can retrieve any number of them. Again, if you're mid construction, you might want to leave some behind. But the more you bring back, the bigger the risk you're taking. So let's say you got three workers. There's a 15 plus 1 is a 16, which means the big number worker goes away. You only lose one worker that way. But then the ones that are out here are now available at their current numbers. That is in lieu of placing anything. But over the course of the game, eventually hidden recruits will show themselves with the allegiance track or with the tunnels. And instead of taking a turn of placing and retrieving workers, you can resolve the dilemma to either place a star on it, which is contributing to dystopia, but it's a step closer to victory, or you can draw two recruits and keep one, which, depending on where the allegiance track is, you might be able to get authority that way as well. So let's say we choose to read a book, and we end up drawing these two, and it turns out the Wastelander track is already that far down. So not only are they going to be activated already, they're going to have a star on them, which will be another step closer to victory. At some point, everyone's going to have at least one person will get all 10 of their stars out. That player wins. Period. It's possible that through the allegiance track, putting stars on all those recruits of the same type that multiple people have, or every number of people contributing to market construction at the same time, and everyone gets their last star that way. That it's possible for everyone multiple people to place a 10th star. So here's the breakdown of what happens when that happens. The higher morale wins, then the lower knowledge wins, and then the most markets with your authority tokens on them, and then most territories with at least one of your authority tokens on them, and then die roll of all your active workers until a tie is broken. And you want to have the lowest total because you want idiots. And that's pretty much the game. You'll Recruits will have their own weird bunny rules to figure out, and if you can get recruits that combine well together, then that'll help. The game also has an expansion that I'm probably going to pick up called Ignorance is Bliss. I'm not sure what else the game adds with it, but it does add a solo mode, which is exactly what I want to have for this. So why exactly do I like this game? It's an interesting approach to worker placement. Instead of just, little figures, you have dice. It's entirely possible if you don't manage this well enough that your workers will start abandoning you. having to deal with a morale to have more room for artifacts is an interesting approach too. It's just an unusual. I want to say it's an unusual game, but it's like for worker placement, it's kind of straightforward, but introducing the allegiance bonuses to add more commodities when you go to those places to get both of the bonuses from digging tunnels. It's it is an interesting approach for for this type of game. So, and the theme is kind of fun in a dark way. Yeah, you realize you discover early on in your time that you've been living in like the worst possible kind of society, but instead of running away, you stick around because you think you've got a vision good enough to replace it and maybe make it better. Yeah, it's it is what it is. It's interesting. It's kind of dark but funny in that way, and it's gonna end one way or another. Either the allegiance track's gonna hit, people are gonna contribute to the markets, people are gonna take over the territories, people are gonna choose to be the jerk on the ethical dilemma. There's just plenty of ways to get your stars out there and end the game. So if this sounds like a fun time to you, definitely check it out. Euphoria, it's pretty cool. All right, thanks very much for watching. This is Miller, and I'll see you next time.